The content and opinions shared on Talking Randomish are intended for entertainment and informational purposes. They reflect the personal views of the host and guests and do not constitute professional advice or represent any affiliated organization.
We're talking randomly. Talking random. We're talking randomly. Talking random.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back to Barbershop Talking Random-ish. I am your master barber, Enrique Antario. Alongside me tonight, John, handyman,
We're going. Keep going.
chair number one,
Keep going.
the scalper himself is in the building. What's good with you, my boy?
I'm good.
How you feeling this evening?
Fantastic. A little sore. Learned a lot today.
Yes, sir.
Learned a lot tonight.
Yes, sir.
Let's get it on.
Let's get it. Let's get it. And we are in the building tonight, and we have District 6 Commissioner of the Classic City, Miss Stephanie Johnson, in the building. How are you, ma'am?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm doing great. I hope you are.
I'm good. I'm good. We learned some things.
Yeah.
We are finding out who you are, the woman. How you feel about it?
You know, I feel what your wife said is true. Like those things I went through and how the difficulties that they were prepared me for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Traveling by yourself, all over the world. Get out there and do it. You got a job to do. That's what I saw. No excuses. Handle your business. You only get one time to complain. If you still don't like it, get over it or learn to love it. Move on. So they were challenging in the moment, and I settled sometimes in that space for a while, but they all helped me prepare for the next challenge. Challenges keep coming, and we do not see most of them. But there are a lot of things. For me, I've noticed when sometimes life gets harder, I feel more at ease, because sometimes I say, like, oh, I've been through that. I don't have that. I've experienced that. And they're different from what other people have experienced. I don't know nobody else who was not living at home at 17. Or, didn't have all the things that they needed to go to college. They had to do all that by themselves. But I'm good with it. I feel like I'm mentally strong in some ways, not mentally strong in some ways, but the ways I think that really matter the most. Yeah, I think there's a strong foundation that created that.
So when you decided it's time to come home, I noticed you said in the beginning that losing the job out on the West Coast was okay. Let's go. When you got here, different animals.
Woo, no, absolutely, actually not. And I was so disappointed because, the job I had, the very last job I had in the Seattle area, I traveled like the top 28 hospitals or institutions on the West Coast, like from Alaska down to Nevada. So I saw change. I got to memorize cities. I knew when I landed in LA, I knew how to get to places. Because I would go so often. I saw change happening. Yeah. I saw work done by the state, Department of Transportation, and then I come back, oh, they finished it. Okay, so now I And when you are traveling to Athens, like every 6 to 8 weeks, as you know, visiting your family, you get on the highway and you go straight to your parents' house and you park the car and you there all weekend until it's time to go back to the airport. So didn't do a lot of driving around. Didn't notice that Athens had not changed. There was one big change, but when I was finally here, for the most part, I looked around and Athens had not changed, and for all of the exposure that I had experienced over, you know, a 15-year period, Athens felt like 1995. In a lot of the thinking, in a lot of the allowances, in a lot of the spaces, who is with whom, it's like, oh, we're still doing that? So like on the West Coast, here's an example I like to use because I don't think it offends anyone because I'm talking about me. So there's so many people that have mixed heritage, mixed backgrounds because of the 3 military bases right there in the same city, that everybody had something, you know, and no one used race to describe folks. They're not the black girl, you mean the Hispanic girl, or the white girl. It was the cute girl with the short brown hair, with the pretty eyes, or the one that has a real tiny waist but long hair. They use other features. I noticed that right away because we use black, white, green, yellow, and purple here. But I noticed that across the board, it just wasn't like in certain spaces or certain age groups. Across the board, people use other features to describe folks, and I got used to it. And so I'm back in Athens, and now I someone says something, and I hear it makes me feel brown. I forgot that I was brown. God darn it! I really did. I mean, because people don't focus on that. They, you know, they may say the one that's always late, or the you know the one that cuts you off, or you know, about people. They'll use other descriptives, and so that was something that was disappointing, that people were still not 15. So I've been here 15 years. So not now. I see people traveling into spaces that I saw 15 years ago in California, you know, Idaho, Utah, you know, Nevada. They were already doing that. I see now, I love to see people being comfortable congregating in a space with whomever that makes them feel good and brings joy to their life, and they don't look like them. Right. If they look like you, that's wonderful. But the fact that we are not doing that, as in you have yours and we have ours, it's a little progress, but it was still here when I returned, that part. And then it just seemed extra slow. And I saw things that, I'm not going to lie, Atlanta Highway hadn't changed since 1992. Atlanta Highway had actually, you know, digressed. It was not, it used to be, what is the main road here now? Let's say Broad Street. It used to be the Broad Street. It used to be where everyone went. It was the main thoroughfare. And all of a sudden, I see this thing. I get on the phone. Hey, I think I'm about to be lost. I just got to an intersection. It says Oconee Connector. What's that? So that was a new thing. Yeah. And she was like, she explained it to me what it was. They built it, you know, several years back, and that was an advancement. Once I got to understand how to navigate in Athens again, I appreciated that. Yeah, I went on campus, you know, often because I felt more comfortable there. But Athens hadn't grown to me, and I was disappointed. Like, I cannot believe I moved back, but I love my family though. I can't believe but if I'm here, I wonder if they're going to send me to stay here. But I love my family. They ain't gonna get younger, and the girl's gonna get bigger. Like, those are reasons why I came back. Yeah. Because my parents are aging, and my brother, you know, had 2 daughters, back to back, and so I wanted to see them grow up. And so it was not like there's no way to get out of it. But Athens could be further along than it is, but it wasn't. It definitely wasn't when I moved back.
It's funny you say that. I think all my journey just to Atlanta and Nashville. But at the same time, when I got back to Athens in 2020, I was like, I don't know about this. Maybe this is just a pit stop. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna unpack my bags.
Right.
But here I am.
If I could have afforded to send myself back to Seattle, but I had paid a lot of money to get here without a job, so I was already into savings. So, yeah, no, but I love my family. That's what it's for.
Now me, I came back in 2021.
Yeah.
And I had no intentions on. I've always loved Athens, and
Hold on, did you come back or did you get kidnapped?
okay, I got kidnapped and brought back home,
There we go.
and
That's the right way. A lot of work.
I had a lot of work to do, but I never intended on staying.
Mm-hmm.
My intention was always to get back to Atlanta,
Yeah.
but once I settled down and got to know Athens, got to hanging out, got to kicking it, got to learning that all the things in all these other places, they have them in Athens too.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started doing that, and I like this place again.
Hmm.
It is now. Don't get me wrong. I agree. I 1000% agree with you. It is a little antiquated in their thinking.
Yeah.
But it's so not antiquated in the pricing.
No.
Oh,
My
definitely.
biggest problem, I think, the overarching problem I have with Athens is I noticed very early that they were eliminating the middle class. Like I was single and I was like, where are the young professionals? There wasn't a space for them. And what I mean by that, there are no restaurant spaces, there are no coffee spaces, like to not engage with kids, you know, and where's our side of town, you know, and we still don't have it. We have less of it. We even have less of it in regard to housing for the middle class. So this is the biggest disappointment I have, in that no one cares about. But if you are in that middle space where you're like 37 to 55, you feel you know, if you don't feel like me, you probably got a lot going on in your life and you hadn't noticed. But I think that missing the middle class, that activities, the fun for us. We have activities and functions for young folks. We have activities and functions for elderly folks, grown folks, and wealthy folks. But that middle class, you know, that individual that may make, you know, 45 to 75,000, but as a couple you may make 100,000 together or above. You know,
The backbone.
there's no space for us in regard to what we like to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there's no cigar bar. Well, there is now, but I talked that up for 2 years. You know, there's now, but just, you know, social places that we can be grown and have a nice talk, maybe a dinner, maybe a dessert, but we're not rushed out and we're really spending money. We're patronizing the space, but there's no space that offers that for middle class individuals. And I understand now why, even more so, because there's no housing for that popular. The housing is the least in the inventory for that couple or that individual to be able to afford a house in Athens now in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been happening since 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So measures have been taken to keep eliminating. I digress. I'm so sorry.
No. You right where we need to be going. Because trying to find somewhere to live in Athens, my man, chair number one, was renting a 2-bedroom condo for over $1,400. And this is an older condo.
Yeah.
And that was almost, Trying to find my mother. My mother before she passed, we was trying to find her a place to live. It's almost the housing market, the rental market. It's almost like they're pushing regular folks, regular Athens out of Athens.
Mhm.
This has become a city of for the collegiate.
I'd say settlers versus people who can say, I grew up there.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was born here and raised here. You settled here. You know, and it's fine. That's fine. But there is a distinction, and you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you end up in politics?
Great question.
That man right there. So we both are, I don't know if fan is the word, but we both enjoy various levels of politics. My husband Jeff, more national, some state. I'm more state, a lot of local. Like I follow a lot of county pages and I watch their meetings. But we come together and we talk, and then we argue over the big elections because I try to, not really argue, but I try to get him to see, okay, that's the national, I understand, but we have to bring it all the way down to how it affects our household. So with the national, like they're running on this, now let's break it all the way down. Let's walk it down to a dime, as my mother would say. If we do this and they vote on this and this happens and this is established in Georgia, this is how it would affect our house. I'm not talking about residents no more. I'm bringing it down to the micro level. And so I try to, with big elections, we don't usually vote similarly for the big elections, and that's fine. It's actually, great witty banter. But, the thing is having that conversation, and he is so much more educated than I am when it comes to like big politics and people. And I'm like, how do you know who the governor in Minnesota is?
Right.
He just knows like random stuff, but it's not random to him because that's what he studies. Yeah. Right. And you asked me a question about, what are they doing in Statesboro? I follow these meetings in South Fulton or Cobb. Like I like to watch their meetings. I like to follow their politics. I like to prepare. I like to see what best practices are. I like to learn from mistakes that other people make. And so we're both kind of students. It's every day. And one day, shortly after I lost my job, we never stopped watching politics. And we have a whole show, a playlist. Like we start here, we start there, and then on Tuesdays, of course, we watch the Mayor Commission meeting. We never stopped doing that. And so I would be watching. Why are you laughing?
This is fascinating because I can't stand politics.
We can't either. But here's the thing: my mom said, "You're gonna always be a complainer if you don't understand what's going on." Right. She said, by paying attention, you are allowed to understand the process. And then if something's not being communicated, I taught you well enough to know what's missing. Mm-hmm. And, you may not know exactly what it is, but you know how to say, could you say it a different way? Because something's not clicking.
Right.
Yeah.
She taught me how to tell when something's missing. Like you may not know what it is. So I was sitting this one particular Tuesday. It was probably 2020, end of 21, early 22, and we were in the room, in the TV room, watching the television. He goes into the kitchen. He's cooking or making a drink or something, and something comes up on the agenda, and there is heavy discussion. And then I just jumped up off the couch, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Oh. You see, when you sit down, and I'm looking back at the kitchen, like you see what's happening, right? You know what they're doing. So this is how they can take care of this. They can easily get this question answered if somebody just asked this question. This is the question they need to ask. They're just playing around. This is just, I don't even know if they understand. But all you have to ask is this question. This is the question that's going to get the answer. Because clearly you can see some people knew what was going on. Yes. And clearly you can see some people were truly confused. And all I said, to get to the answer, here's the question. This question is going to get you there. And it's going to eliminate all that it eliminates all of that. And, that was the first time Jeff, he kind of turned away from whatever he was doing. And he says, you should just run. And I'm like that was a hard no. I wish I would. Period. Like that's kind of where I was. And that continued. It continued a little more, a little less, depending on the Tuesday. But I always had the question. I always knew what was happening, and I always understood where they were going. But I could see that some people didn't. There is always a component of some people being included in the private talk, and there's a component of some people not understanding and feeling overwhelmed and not fully caught up. We suffer when that happens because there's delays. The people who don't understand don't feel confident in their vote, and they tend to just go with the flow, go with the group. Poor decisions are made, and it's never clearly quite explained to where a resident can understand it. And that was one of the biggest things I had. Like, who gets that? I get it, but who gets that? They didn't really go over what they're voting on. They just kind of went, very, very high level. My thinking one year was, this is how it should be. This particular county, they say, up next is item number 17. It is a vote, to extend the intergovernmental agreement between the Parks and Recs Division and, the school system. Let's pretend, right? And discussion can now begin. Okay, that's best practices.
Right.
You introduce it for the audience,
For sure.
the ones that's watching and the ones that's sitting there. They're taking on good authority, like expecting people to be on their phone watching it. Some people watch it on TV. Some people don't have the ability to print out their agenda. So what was happening was they go to the next item, not introduce it, and you wouldn't even know what the vote was. Like, especially if there was no discussion. Oftentimes you'll hear this. So the next we have move for approval. Second, all in favor. What did we just vote on? And so if you're sitting at home or in the audience, you have no idea. Since then, I guess from my feedback, they've started to add some things, to do that on the television. You'll see now at the bottom, I think, for some meetings they'll put next up is number 12, and it has the title. That's about it. But that quick, fast move to motion and approve still happens, and I don't like that part because the residents are afforded to, the conversation to understand what is being voted on, because it could apply and affect their life.
Is that? Do you feel like that's by design for the most part? Like the way they just move past.
Look at my face.
Look at her face. So okay, I read your face. So what do we do about that then? I guess on your level as being a commissioner. So I mean, what's the remedy?
Okay, so here's the thing. You got a couple of things going on. You have people that they're just not into it.
Right.
And I don't know why they're commissioners. They're just not into it, and they're ready to go. They're ready to hurry up. Do we need to discuss that? Well, we did that 2 years ago. But I wasn't here 2 years ago.
Right.
This Hattie Mae wasn't here 2 years ago. Jonathan Singleton wasn't here 2 years ago. Like, these are new faces, new people. Afford us the respect to have the conversation of telling us what you're voting on. And then there's the group that just wants to hurry up and get it done so they can go hang out.
Right. So they got kind of grandfather type agendas that already they can just move through quickly.
There's some things that are annual.
Right. Okay.
But there's still updates.
Right.
There's still updates. And sometimes there are changes. And so there's a component of that. But the motion to approve and why that happens, what we could do to change it is, I'm not exhausted. I'm not out of steam. But I am highly discouraged with not, being listened to, or what I say, oh, nobody cares about that, Stephanie. I get that look. When I say, hey, before we, hold on, Mr. Mayor, can you please read the agenda item title so the public knows what we're voting on? Because it goes so fast. I don't like it. I think, because here's the thing. We have first Tuesday is the voting meeting. The second Tuesday is the work session. The work session is usually designed to have departments come in or consultants or whatever to talk about complicated things that may raise a lot of attention that people that care about. And so, and the third Tuesday meeting is the agenda setting meeting. So we're setting the agenda for the next first Tuesday.
Right.
So the agenda setting meeting is where discussion is supposed to happen. Years ago, in the 11s, 12, 13, 14, 15s, I was watching back then. I watched all the meetings from like 2010 on. So I remember like the old school commissioners had discussions. They discussed it on the floor. You understood their reasoning. You understood why. You know, now it's this, well, if it's not going to pass and you're against it, might as well just go ahead and vote with them so you don't look like you're outlier. I'm like, but your vote matters because you represent your people. You represent the collective desire of your district. So why would I just, it's kind of like fall and then like go with everybody. And one thing, I've always been quiet, shy and all this, that, and the third, but I ain't never been a follower.
Right.
So that part was really like, no, I don't mind being unpopular because I don't see anything wrong with, I could clearly explain myself. You know, I have people that I speak with, people that contact me. I have a strong list of about 5 to 8 people that as soon as the agenda come out, they own my phone. When you get a chance to review it, I got some topics to talk to you about. So they send me there with homework to get some answers or clarification, and they're just not there for it. Some commissioners are not there for it. Some commissioners are not interested in it. Some commissioners don't understand the true enormity of what they're voting on. Like this, if we make this decision, I will guarantee you September 28th, this is going to be introduced to us. And I got money on that. There's something that was voted on in June. And because of that vote and people not really understanding the vote, it will allow a business owner to make some changes. And that happens all the time. And so I don't know everything. I don't. But I try to do the reading. I try to understand, some weak areas for me. I would say weak as in dumb, but I would say weak as in not sharp. Would be like planning and zoning. Planning and zoning is what affects a lot of stuff that happens in our community. And so to change it, to educate the public, I'm big on the public should understand what we're voting on. I don't get any feedback from college. They like imagine if my blinks had a sound. So here we go. That's what I get. No, but no sound. No, people are looking around. No one's saying anything. No one's chiming in. No one's saying that's a good idea. Maybe we should, or just really quickly, let me just read it. So it's discouraging, and so I've always been from the very beginning stating that it's important to educate people about what's happening. They can choose to care or not care, but if it's going to affect them and their livelihood, I want them to know before the vote, right, not after the vote.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a commissioner is, lack of a better term, on my behalf, it's like the liaison between the people in the district and the mayor. How correct is that?
The liaison between the people and the mayor, no. Is the commissioner is the point of contact for residents. We serve residents. We collectively approve policy that should advance our initiatives, our strategic goal, but also at the same time, these strategic goals should benefit residents and our community. And it also should get projects completed in a timely fashion. So not necessarily, the mayor is his own liaison with his own constituents. So it's independent that way. But so our commissioners, like I get about 4 or 5 contacts a week. at the least, about an issue. And so I put it out there. If your front yard is flooding, or if you don't have any street lights, if you want someone to come out to do an evaluation, if your streets are horrible, like garbage, like broken up and all that, you don't have any speed tables, but people are speeding. That's what I do. And I know people don't know that naturally. You just don't know that, who to go to. So I promote that so people know to call me or contact me. Send me a text message, give me a couple of days, and I'll follow up with you. And, issues with living beside a home that doesn't necessarily take care of their property. They may have a lot of stuff like involving other departments, partnering with other departments to get things fixed. And so it's really worked well. So that's my singular job as it relates to constituency care. Anything that they need, even if it's not under my wheelhouse, it is my job, because I serve them as their district representative, to find out who can. That's and the mayor doesn't get involved at that level.
What about the city? So it's a city manager, or
the city manager? Not at that level.
Not that level.
He will. He can and will if I need assistance.
Okay.
Like for example, I had 2 communities out, Creekside Manor and Stonehenge. They're just declining. There have been some incidences of illegal dumping of major trash, and then there were some violations of on-street parking, and then some violations of just housing stuff. And then, they have a neighborhood association in Creekside Manor, and it's changing a lot. And it's, they called me out. They wanted me to come look at it. So after church one Sunday, I walked around with them for about an hour, and it was more major than I thought. And so I typed it up, and all the things that needed to be addressed. They didn't have the proper street lighting. And so one of these things that I saw is that, their streets aren't the same width. Their roundabouts aren't the same, diameter. And I could see it with my with my eye. Like I don't have any measurement, but it's caused challenges. And see, they didn't even know how I could help handle this. So what was happening is school buses couldn't necessarily get around the roundabout if a car was parked in the roundabout. The fire trucks couldn't get around. The ambulances couldn't get around. So we had to add to the list. Well, we need to talk about on-street parking. Your parking, what you have is what you have. You can't change that, but we can do curb striping. And they were like, really? So it was like, okay. I was like, so I want people to understand, like, these services are there. They're not highly promoted. But if you are, my thing is quality of life, giving you the best quality of life you want. And it looks different for everybody. And so whatever that is, you cannot get out of your back. You cannot back out of your driveway because people are parked right there on both sides of your driveway, and you can't see behind there. Let's just say they're 2 big body trucks, and you can't see over the SUV just to back out safely. Well, we could do some curb striping, so maybe they have to go down just a little bit, a car length away, so you can see the road. Right. So just little things like that. Neighborhoods that don't have. There are still neighborhoods that don't have equitable things like sidewalks, proper roads. And when I speak to kids, they ask me what I do, and I say, this is what I want you to do. I say, I serve you, but I want you to do this. They say, what does that mean? I say, well, when you go home today, I want you to look at, when you enter your neighborhood, wherever you live, look and see if you have sidewalks. I said, also, pay attention and look and see if you have street lights. Right. And I said, and third, take a look at your roads. Are they crumbly? Are they cracked? And I said, whatever it looks like, it's a reflection on what the government thinks about your community. And the kids were like, this is at the youth force this summer, last summer at the Boys and Girls Club. And they were like, what? And I said, I'm not saying it to be mean, but it is, eye-opener when you think about it like that, because you have communities like 5 Points, and you have communities like the Boulevard area. They are on their 2nd or 3rd phase of updating their sidewalks. They're getting new sidewalks. Like, what's wrong with the old sidewalks? You have some communities without them. You have communities without street. I mean, there's no lighting in Stonehenge, and then you have speeding. So those, I want to be equitable. I want to promote equity in the services. It's not equitable yet, but that's where I'm headed. I want that, and I want a park for District 6.
Is there a challenge to get your message out to your constituents? Like, I guess what I'm saying, some people just don't know. Some people just don't care. So how would someone be able to find out where you this kind of information? Were you knocking on doors, or like people don't know if a tree falls on the floor, does it make a sound? You know, that type of situation.
That's a good question. You know, so here's the thing. I still work like I'm campaigning.
Okay.
So I go out twice a week at the minimum, sometimes 3, but I try to meet 2 new people. Right. You know, I'll be driving around the neighborhood because I'm taking down inventory. Like I turned in a work ticket for that. Did it get fixed? I'm going to check on it. And while I'm there, I may see somebody, introduce myself. Okay. And I also try to meet a new business owner. And that's a trip. Businesses do not think or know that commissioners are there to serve them too. The first thing they say is, I don't live in the county. I don't live in the county. I said, no, sir. I said, I respect that. I said, but you have a business here. You chose to have your business in Clark County and in District 6. You pay taxes and you employ people. So I serve you. But, you know, and these are some examples of things that you can call me for. I have to give them some examples. Yeah. But I also try to reach out to HOA presidents just to kind of let them know, you know, I don't want to create work. But at the same time, you know, when I go through that list, you know, you have a problem with lighting, you have a problem with speeding, you have a problem with this, you have trees overhanging, whose responsibility is it to cut it? You know, stuff like that. Well, when the mowing crew comes out, they don't really cut the road. I mean, like they're supposed to. Like even that to that minute level, I want them to know that you contact me. And I go out to neighborhoods and I have this guide. It's called the A to Z guide. It's just like a compendium of everything ACC, where you can find everything about every department. It's a really good book. And I staple my business card to that. And so if I'm in a neighborhood checking on something, I'll usually leave those at the mailbox. Oh. And so they have my business card on there. And that produces a lot of follow-up. I also have a newsletter that the goal is to have it produced every month, but it's turning out to be every month and a half to 2 months right now, with just some other stuff that I've been busy with, but I want to get back to having it produced every month. But I see with every newsletter, I get more and more people signing up for it. And this lady, we went to visit a church, and this lady said, "You're the commissioner over by the mall," and I was like, "I am." She was like, "I heard you had a real good, you know, newsletter. I'm not in your district, but I want to sign up." I said, "Well, thank you." I gave her the QR code where you could just scan it and then you just put your email and you're signed up. And so they find out through that. And I also do a lot of engagement. I try to do a town hall every couple of months about something that affects the majority of people or a portion, like a side of town. Yeah, I try to do that. I try to be as engaged as I can, because this started with this right here is the truest statement I ever said, and it just came from a weekend of brainstorming with one of my friends, Joey Carter, and I went through my list of what I had, and he was like, "What about that one?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." He said, "That's good." I said, "People over politics?" He said, "It says a lot." Mm-hmm. And I was like, it really is what I believe. I don't believe in all this politics stuff. I don't believe in, horse trading. I don't believe in, getting together before the meeting, deciding what we're going to do. I don't believe in the eye contact and I believe in what do the people want, because the people in District 6 have been ignored. Now, if I live somewhere else, maybe I'll have a different opinion, but I don't think so. But it's obvious that people in District 6 have been ignored because of the SPLOST 2020 list, and also the T-SPLOST 2023 list, and the impending T-SPLOST 2026 list. No one put anything on the list. Like, it's underrepresented. There's 3 projects in SPLOST 2020. And for T-SPLOST 2023, there are, I think, 2 corridor projects, and then 2026, none.
So what's going on with the mall?
One second. For the people that are listening, can you explain what T-spots mean?
Yes.
The T-Spots is a transportation special local option sales tax that was initiated to collect an additional penny for projects that relate to roads, sidewalks, making roads safer.
Okay.
They call it pedestrian improvement programs. And so, like last year, like I would say Stonehenge had been on a list for 7 years. They had made the list, and I actually, but no one was pushing the agenda. And so as soon as I started in February, I actually started talking about when we're going to get this started for Stonehenge.
Okay.
When can Stonehenge expect those speed tables? When can Stonehenge expect the sidewalks? You know,
Right.
because when you get the sidewalks, then the bus can come back out.
Right.
You know, because now the bus doesn't serve out there. And so finally, after, you know, by the end of that year, they got approval for that $4.5 million. But it took, you know, it took me pushing it. The person before, or you know, no one else. It's not assertive. It hasn't been assertively, you know, promoted. And so, the SPLOST is also the special purpose local option sales tax that is comprised of a list of a committee group puts together and puts it in front of the body to approve. And there are a variety of projects from improving the parks to improving buildings or stuff like that.
Okay. I got a personal question. I live in Woodridge, and the city bus runs through Spring Valley, which is just a street over.
Mm-hmm.
So who makes the decision on bus routes? As far as like I said, I'm a rock throw away from Spring Valley, but the city bus doesn't come through Woodridge.
That's an interesting question. I can't say definitively who it is or if it's a group of people in the transit department, but they do base their routes on ridership.
Okay.
You know, but that's kind of like a catch-22 when you don't provide, you know, access to the bus at hours that people need it. You know, because it's a good argument to say, well, no one rides the bus, so that's why we eliminated that service.
Okay.
So we don't go out there anymore because no one got on the bus.
Right.
But it could have been the timing. You know, you may not need to go 6 times a day. You may just need to go a couple of times in the morning and a couple of times in the evening. But I would say the first step would be the transit director and assistant director.
Okay.
And it's just, I mean,
So not the commissioner of my district.
oh yeah, I would say you could do that too.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of constituents do both.
Okay.
You know, because they don't really know where to go. But then when they get really frustrated, they may then reach out to the commissioner in that order, or maybe at the same time. But I would say definitely reach out to your commissioner. But you know, if it's something that's really important, also you get them involved. Okay. And always ask to be CC'd on all communication whenever they're working on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
You know, I tell my constituents the same. I'm going to CC you. Is that okay? So I want you to be aware that I'm working. I want you to be aware of the progress. Right. So everybody
included in, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, one of the places to go on Saturday,
I know it.
was the mall.
Wasn't it? Yes.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Walk around all Saturday.
You walk around all Saturday. You catch the early bus to get there. You better be on the 6 o'clock?
No, the movie theater in the back.
Yeah, the movie theater in the back. But now, the movie theater's gone, and it's no longer a mall. It's almost, I do it. Belts maybe still there. A shoe store.
One restaurant.
What is going on with the mall? A few years, I think about a year or so ago, there's a big private ownerships and people supposed to been building and turning into
like a multi-level
living type thing. And then all of a sudden,
okay, there's a lot. And let me tell you, everything you probably read in 2025 was not true. But I will also tell you this. When I started in 2025, the very first thing, I recognized the mall was the biggest thing on my in District 6. That's going to make or not break me, but make me or make me. But the thing is, the mall actually was purchased and plans were submitted as early as 2021. I think December 2020. So what happened is that a group of 3 gentlemen, 2 grew up in Athens, wanted to create a legacy. They purchased the mall outright. Period. No debt. And they wanted to develop it. They had a plan, they had a vision. They submitted their plans, and ACC saw. Now, some may call this anecdotal, but I will say this is reading over 3,000 pages of documents. Okay, and so I'm telling you what I've read. So, and piecing some stuff together that wasn't communicated to me. So what happened is when they submitted their plans, ACC said, we need to get in this. We need to create a partnership and give us an opportunity to do that. We can make this so big, and this could be a legacy for you two, since you grew up here. Wouldn't you want a legacy? And so that was interesting enough to, okay, let's see what you come up with. So a year, 2 years later, and I think one developer told me the number specifically, but it was over 100 meetings they had, where I wasn't on the commission, but we were watching the meetings where we saw that when there was discussion about the mall, there was discussion about adding things to the already proposed project that would benefit the county. And a lot of people don't understand or don't realize that this is a privately owned dwelling. It's not owned by the county. And so I was at a meeting, a public meeting, and someone said, what they need to do is turn it into affordable housing. What they need to do is turn it into something for the homeless. So this is the thing. If you go out and buy your house, it's up to you to do what you want to do with it. You know, within the limits of the planning. And so what happened over a period of years, different elements and projects were discussed, evaluated, and eventually voted on to be added to that list, added to the planning list, in addition to what the developers had already dreamed of. And so at the end of 3.5-year period, I would say maybe 2024-ish, and maybe middle of that. Now this is 4 years later. I don't know who could sit on money like that, you know, and not start the project, but they were able to do this. And when the project finally came out, the budget for the project, what Athens Park County officials added on, and it was a variety of people, just not one person, added $189 million to the budget. Now here's the rub. They wanted the developer to build it. And they wanted the developer to pay for it. So that was a challenge. The developer was in the business of commercial and residential. And I didn't know the developer, but I had to meet him to get information, because when I started, I could not get any information from ACC. Very strange. They wouldn't tell me anything that happened, any discussions, and usually, is business as usual is catch me up with where we are with this project so that I can continue it on. I got nothing, not from the economic development director, nothing. I mean, it was very discouraging. I eventually met with the developer, and he provided an overview that actually made a lot of sense, and according to the reading, like it really kind of lined up. So what we did was a town hall. I said, I'm going to tell you what the streets are saying. Can I be candid? He said, yeah. I said, streets are saying you're out of money. And the streets are saying that, you can't get a loan. And he said, I've heard that too. And he said, I will clear it up. We did a town hall, and it worked. It was great. Over 250 people attended. And he allowed himself to be, like the soundboard. He answered every question, hard, mean, nice, or whatever, and people got a lot of clarity. People began to get excited again about the mall. But what happened is there was supposed to be communication and follow-up with the developers from the Athens Park County Unified Government above me, and that did not happen. And so they're patiently waiting for the check-in. When can we start? We need to discuss this. They weren't able to get a loan for utilities. That is true. Like that 189 million that they did not add, they had to get they were trying to source a loan for that. And the way banking works, you have to have an asset. Like they don't do loans for utilities. But governments can get loans for utilities. You get what I'm saying? Like a general obligation bond or something like that. But they just didn't want to do that for the mall. But they were happy to do it for the Classic Center 3 times. That's one thing that just kind of stuck with me. They were still approving Classic Center additional bonds. We're 159 million over budget with that, but you're okay approving bonds. But the reason you don't want to consider or approve a bond for the mall, and there are such things as TAD bonds. It's not a benefit to the developer. It allows the developer to actually start your project, your work, because he couldn't do his work. And so I thought that was kind of interesting and not in a great way, because the people that I work with, other 9 commissioners, it made a lot of sense to them. But I'm like, you don't hear how this sounds or how it looks. But eventually we got through the year, and the community benefits agreement, that was that 189 million add-on that expired in December finally. So that's 5 years. And they were, and people think they didn't have the money. They can start the project. Now, I'm coming in, I'm not taking up for nobody, but I'm telling you what I've read, I'm telling you what I've seen, I'm telling you when someone said something that made sense, I know what common sense sounds like, And so what they chose to do is, now we're going to switch gears. We don't want to be involved with the community benefits agreement at all. Could you just take it off? Since this is expired anyway, let's just go ahead and remove it. We want to go back to our original plans that we submitted in 2020, 2021. You see how that worked?
Yeah.
No other developer, they wasted 5 years of somebody's time. No other developer, they fast forwarding other people's project. And I noticed that. So what happened is, well, how does that look? What will you do? And so they talked about an overlay district. And so this was a meeting in January, because they basically said, we are not proceeding forward with the community benefits agreement after December. And plus it expires in December. We're not doing anything else. We don't want to. And in January, we all met, and there was a discussion about an overlay district. And so the overlay district, and they were amenable to it. They were like, okay, that sounds like progress moving forward. And what that does is allow the development to go back to the planned development status that it is. And an overlay district designation is just, in just the simplest terms, it's just like a list of additional instructions that allows the developer more flexibility, up front. Like they establish stuff like building height criteria. Like ground floor leases or residential space. They allow, they discuss and determine and decide, tree canopy. They do all of that. And then they also have the flexibility to make small changes along the way of their own project, instead of being stuck in a model. So it's a positive for the developer, and it allows them to start moving, and it designates those big things like street. Where will the transit station go? Where will how high will the buildings be, which are in the code, like they have to be established. Get that out of the way. Fine. But now they have the flexibility to actually make changes if they need to, depending on, like, something may be different next year. And it's a good thing. The thing is, it's going a little bit longer than it should. When we spoke, there was a timeline that was given. We should be here by March. We should be here by May. So I asked for an update 2 days ago, and the update that I received was that the planning department is working on language for the overlay. So the planning department actually writes an overlay for the developer, and the developer has to accept it. Not has to, but there's conversation, and then they accept it, and then after that, what happens is it goes to a work session. and I don't know if that's necessary, but it goes to a work session, and then it goes to in front of the mayor commission for a vote. By that time, that's September, October at the latest. So it's another year. But after that's said and done, then the building start. Once it's said and done and approved, the building and construction can actually get started. And I'm excited about it. People want it. People are discouraged without they're discouraged because they've not heard anything, but because of all the legal challenges, I can't just put out a statement without any approval. And if there's not been any movement, and it's very slow movement, it's been unfortunate. But I asked for an update on Monday, got it on Tuesday, so I'm happy about that.
Last question for me. This is your first term. How pleased have you been with the progress or lack of progress that you have made or not made with with the new mayor coming in? How is that going to affect how you continue to run your district?
It shouldn't affect, so can I start backwards? It shouldn't affect how a new mayor coming in, shouldn't affect how I run my district, because I'm pretty proactive. You know, like as far as coaching up or providing some type of update or, you know, assistance. I try to stay on top of stuff. But when it comes to how enchanted I am with the current situation about success or lack of, I'm discouraged. I'm oftentimes discouraged because I spend a lot of time preparing for the meeting. I really do. I mean, I read for hours and hours. And when we get there and it's rushed, it's an insult, you know, and I've been saying this for the last 2 months. Like lately what's happening is when I make a comment, like a factual comment, not like I think or I believe, or no, according to the Department of Community Affairs Division under HUD, they state that this is not best practices. They discourage counties from doing this. Why are we choosing to do this? And in addition to that, they stated that Athens-Clarke County is the only county in the entire state that does this. Why are we doing this? And everyone just like, remember? Beep, 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 beep. And it makes me feel like I know what I'm talking about if I'm saying that. And I'm not dumb. And I did the research. I read the document, followed up with HUD, and no one is interested enough to say, wait a minute, is that true? Wait a minute. I am curious why that. I was curious too. Why are we? That lack of support of just following up with a question and even showing interest. I've had some wins. I've gotten additional money for the park that hasn't started yet, and I don't know when it's going to start. And I actually changed some minds on the floor by just speaking the research that I've had. If we make this decision, this is what it will turn into, you know. And sharing all of the knowledge that I collected over the weekend, and in some cases, it's been few, but it was a major surprise. They were few but big. Like I could see some faces like, wow, I didn't expect that vote to go that way, and I didn't either, but it did. But it's not. It's just a few. We don't talk, and that was one of the biggest things that I didn't know. That I learned. And so I don't know how you make, you know, positive, informed decisions that represent benefits for the majority of people. Because you can't, you know, help everybody when you don't talk. We don't have active plans and process. And that's discouraging because we know that's an issue. We don't have active plans and processes in place. We don't have a strong strategic plan to lead us confidently into taking care of and eradicating issues like homeless. You know, what are we doing? Are we managing it or are we fixing it? And so what we're doing is providing a teeny weensy bit of money to agencies to just manage it, and they're out of money by, you know, in six months. It's not sufficient. It's less than insulting to people who work in that space, because you really can't get anything done with just a little bit of money. What do you do for the rest of the year? And no one seems to care that we don't have those major issues. Like we don't have a plan for them. That is disheartening. Because it makes me always, every week I wonder, are you here? And it's a different person I'm looking at. You know, out of the 9 colleagues I have, it's a different person I'm looking at because it's a different topic, and I'm wondering, why are you here? That doesn't matter. I had one commissioner say, well, it has to do with poor, homeless, or this. I don't have that problem in my district, so I yield my time. But it happens, you know. At the very minimum, we should talk about a strategic plan. We hear a lot of no's, we can't, but we see Andre Dickerson doing a lot of big things, a lot of new things, and challenging the state and winning. And there's just no appetite for it. And it feels like play acting. And like I told you, I was not born a kid. I ain't never played. I ain't never like do stuff like that. I was like always serious. Compassionate and serious, but I just feel like I don't see that from the majority of my colleagues on a consistent basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, one last question, Rick. Stephanie, quick question. If someone that's listening wanted to tune in to these Tuesday meetings or get involved, just know what's going on, what, is it online, a website, or acc.gov?
Thank you for asking. Yes, it's on accc.gov.com. So on the home page, scroll all the way to the very bottom and look for the Tuesday meeting. It'll say Mayor Commission.
Okay.
And it's because there are several meetings posted, but scroll to the very bottom of the home page.
Okay.
accc.gov.com.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you. And
Do you guys edit this?
no, typically not.
Oh goodness.
I typically do not, but we can have a conversation about that.
I think I probably talked a lot.
That's the purpose.
You
But
said
if it was good,
Yes.
and valuable, that's okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. But I would love to have you back because there are some things that's coming up on the ballot that I would love to for the people to hear about.
Oh yeah.
And
That's a really big important one. I would love to come back and talk about.
yes, and so I really would love to have you back in here so we can get this information out to the people
Okay.
so they can make it
Sure.
an
That'd be
informed decision about it.
Okay.
But we really do thank you and for allowing us to get to know you.
Yes, indeed.
So thank you.
Thank you for
And,
this opportunity too.
Hey, and talk to your husband about coming in here and sitting in here with me.
He usually has a lot to say, but
We got some things. I got some questions that for him.
Yeah, we'll find some questions for you.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Definitely.
I think that's a good idea.
For sure.
Definitely. So we're gonna get ready to get on up out of here. How can they find you for questions and your newsletter and stuff like that? Please get that out.
Okay, my newsletter is on Facebook. You can sign up for my newsletter on Facebook at Commissioner Stephanie, Athens, Georgia. And if you send me a text message, all of our phone numbers are posted publicly on the ACC website. If you send me a text message, I will send you a link to sign up for the newsletter. It is a really quick, click on it and then enter your email, hit enter, and you're signed up, and you'll get the very next one. And I have a website, steph46.com.
Once again, I thank you. Thank you, Chef Crocker John. Farmer John.
Another nickname. 7-1.
You
Not a
know,
problem. Good conversation.
great conversation. No,
Well,
much
sorry,
needed.
great conversation.
Much needed. Much needed.
For sure.
But we finna get ready to get on up out here. This game called life is a series of moments. The past is just that, the past. Learn from it and be thankful for it. The future, prepare for it. It's coming. Let's get to the next one. The present, it is a gift. Enjoy the journey. Take plenty of pictures, but most importantly, thank God. It's time to clean the clippers. We're gonna sweep the floors. And boom aside. You got the bathroom.
20 nicknames.
Yeah, I see.
So I got you.
Hey man. In the words of Rita Lawson's son, Odabo Jack, the shop is closed.
Those moves.
Thank you.
We're talking randomly. Talking random. We're talking randomly. Talking random.